You are now watching, By the Minute, where we highlight unsolved, unidentified and missing cases across the nation. Corner of our nation, mysteries linger in the shadows, shrouding our communities in uncertainty. Suspects roam freely, blending into the fabric of our everyday lives. But it's time to unite, to shine a light on these hidden truths and honor the stories of those who have been silenced. Together, let's bring justice out of the darkness and into the light. Albuquerque, New Mexico. December 25, 1998. A woman is missing, and the details surrounding this case are suspicious. Do you have tips to crack this missing person's case? A mother would contact police once she wasn't able to get in contact with her daughter. The mother was worried, as the last time she saw her daughter, she was with people that she were alleged to be involved with crimes. Police would begin filing a missing persons report for Betty Vigil Garcia, 34. Detectives would begin tracing Betty's steps. It would start with, the last time her mother saw her, at the Drift Inn Lounge, located off of Bridge Road and the 1100 block of Coors Road. Witnesses remember that Betty may have been with two male individuals. Reports alleged that the men were involved with narcotics. Betty is a Hispanic female, 5 feet 6 inches, 150 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. From a prior surgery, Betty has metal in her left knee. At this time, Betty remains missing, and we are asking our viewers for help. Do you know the men that may have last been seen with Betty, or have tips into where she is today? Please contact the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office. Betty would go missing on Christmas, and now this is a holiday where her family continues to ask, where is Betty? Help us raise awareness for Betty's missing person case by sharing this video. Across the nation, there are victims that need your help sharing their stories, that can help authorities gain new tips that lead us closer to justice. Help us today, by becoming a Minute Mover, and subscribing to our channel. Las Vegas, Nevada. February 7, 1987. In the city of luck and misfortune, a woman's family is left with unanswered questions and few details about where she could be. Kathy Jean Diamond, known to keep in contact with her friends and family, wouldn't be heard from since 1987. Friends remember seeing her get into a car, a maroon and red 1982 Mercury Capri with California license plates. She was allegedly with a friend. The car would later be found abandoned, in a parking lot, in the 4400 block of Jimmy Durante Drive. Kathy still remains missing. She is described as a white female, 5 feet 3 inches, weighing 130 pounds, with green eyes and brown hair. Kathy also had a beauty mark under her right eye and a scar under her nose. Have you seen Kathy or know more about what happened the day she was last seen? Any tips, please contact Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. You are now watching, By the Minute, where we highlight unsolved, unidentified and missing cases across the nation. In every corner of our nation, mysteries linger in the shadows, shrouding our communities in uncertainty. Suspects roam freely, blending into the fabric of our everyday lives. But it's time to unite, to shine a light on these hidden truths and honor the stories of those who have been silenced. Together, let's bring justice out of the darkness and into the light. Sublette County, Wyoming. July 3, 1990. A family grows frustrated with the lack of evidence and opportunity to continue to life their missing loved one. Someone has tips, do you? More than 30 years ago, a missing persons report would be filed for a woman that did not return after a court appointment. That missing woman is Kimberly Novak, mother and missed family member. Kimberly would leave on July 3, 1990, to attend a custody hearing in Jefferson County, Montana. Kimberly would not return, and her family would report her missing. At this time, her family believes that something had to have happened to Kimberly, as she would have contacted them within the 30 years that she's been missing. Today, They still want answers, and our viewers, our Minute Movers, stand with Kimberly's family on the search for answers into her disappearance. Kimberly is a white female, 5 feet 4 inches with brown hair and green eyes. Kimberly was known to go off for periods at a time and had a battle with substance abuse. She was reported missing at age 32, today she'd be around 66. Investigators in this case have listed Kimberly's missing persons case active. One of the great things about court is that it is a public place, and many appointments happen in a day's span. Maybe someone saw something that day that can help us get tips for Kimberly's whereabouts. We know that tips help authorities crack cases, get our families and communities across the nation answers. Together, we can encourage those with tips to speak up and get authorities leads. If you have any tips about Kimberly's missing person case, please contact the Sublette County Sheriff's Department. Lockwood, Montana. March 16, 2012. A mother has been missing for a decade, and today her family still questions where she could be. Jamie Grossman, 25, at the time, mother who worked at the Golden Corral, located in Billings, Montana. On March 17, 2012, Jamie would have some scheduled time with her kids, but she wasn't feeling too well, and would contact her children's father to reschedule. Jamie would be living with her boyfriend, but they would recently lose their home, and planned a new move on Hillner Lane in Lockwood area on March 17, 2012. That same day, Jamie would schedule to work, but she wouldn't make her shift. Jamie's boyfriend would reach out to Jamie's family and report her missing. He stated that he took Jamie to a convenience store located on First Avenue. He said that Jamie would get into a blue car and he didn't see her again. Allegedly. That same day, a missing persons report would be filed for Jamie. Detectives would look into surveillance video of the convenience store, but they would not recover any evidence of Jamie ever being there. There have been multiple leads stating that Jamie was in Las Vegas, Everett, Washington, or Hardin, Montana. Each of these leads have left us with zero results on Jamie's whereabouts, and today, her whereabouts remain unknown. Jamie's family loves, misses her, and hopes to soon find answers into where she is. Help us raise awareness on Jamie's missing person case. If you have any tips about this missing persons case of Jamie Grossman, please contact Crime Stoppers at 245-6660, Port, Maine. January 1, 2002. A church-going woman, known to go on Catholic retreats, would be reported missing, after her family hadn't heard from her. Today, her whereabouts remain unknown. Marilyn Lehan, 49, wife and active member of the church. Marilyn lived with her husband on Clark Street, in East Port, Maine. She would visit with her family in July of 2002, and they hadn't heard from her. They reached out to her husband, who let them know she was on a Catholic retreat in Montana. This was normal for Marilyn, and things wouldn't seem strange, that is until the time continued to pass without hearing from her. Her family would reach out to police for a missing persons report to be filed. Police would begin investigating, and with cooperation from Marilyn's husband, continued their research. Detectives would head to the property that Marilyn and her husband shared with cadaver dogs. Their search would end with zero clues. Today, Marilyn is still missing. And we need help from our viewers to make sure her case stays in the light until we get answers. Do you have any tips about the disappearance of Marilyn Lehan? Please contact the Maine State Police. West Brentwood, New York. February 1, 1968. Brentwood sits as a community in Long Island, New York. Sometime in the late 1960s a missing persons mystery began and today remains unsolved. Bessie Linder, 58, would be last seen in West Brentwood in February or March of 1968. Reports state that Bessie would walk away from the hospital and would never be seen again. Today, if Bessie were alive, she would be 114 years old. There are very few details available about her case, but we need help from our viewers. Do you know what happened to Bessie? If you have any information, please contact the Suffolk County Police Department 631-852-6392. Dominating in a world that comes with competition, can grant you admiration or hate. Would this be the cause behind one woman's disappearance? Casper, Wyoming. October 6, 2014. Christy Richardson, 61, a widowed yet dedicated owner of her and her late husband's trucking company, would not arrive to work and was reported missing. The day before her disappearance, she would visit her daughter's home to drop off a happy birthday card and spend time with her grandkids. Christy would arrive home where her cell phone activity would show that she took a routine phone call with one of her drivers at 7:45 p.m. At 11 p.m. she would receive a phone call from a vendor and that call would not be answered. Christy's daughter would go to her mother's house and have to enter through the garage with a spare key. She would find her mother's home undisturbed and no signs of forced entry. Her front door had the deadbolt on it. She would see that her mother's pocketbook with $800, ID, and her cell phone were still inside the residence. Police and Christy's family do suspect foul play, as Christy's car would also still be at her residence. Christy is out there somewhere and we will not quit until she is found. Her family and friends made efforts to search and have had no luck. Help us get answers to Christy's whereabouts. Police have a few motives that they think may play as key factors in Christy's disappearance. The oil and gas industry in Wyoming has become extremely extensive and competition is steep. Christy and her late husband owned their trucking company since 1979 and have been able to remain in business since his passing. Another motive could be an ex-employee or disgruntled customer. There is also the possibility that Christy has decided to walk away from her life in Wyoming and does not want to be found. Christy's friends and family would beg to differ. They believe something has happened to Christy and they even conducted a search of Casper Mountain asking for the community's help to find Christy. Christy is a white female, between 5 feet 4 inches, weighing 90 to 115 pounds, with brown eyes and brown hair. She was 61 at the time of her disappearance. In today's airing of this episode, she would be 70. Please, if you have any information about Christy's whereabouts, please contact Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation or Casper Police Department. Christy is loved and missed by many. We stand with Christy's family and friends, and you can too by making sure we keep this story in the light by the minute. Herndon, Virginia. December 1, 2009. While most of us are getting prepared for the festivities that December brings, for one family their holiday fun was brought to a halt after one of their own left work and was never heard from again. Norma Alicia Avillan was reported missing by her friends and family once they were unable to hear from her. Norma was last seen leaving work at Dulles International Airport at 11:30 p.m. Here we can see Norma leaving work. This was the last time she was seen again. Police believe Norma made it back to her apartment in Herndon, as this is where they found her car, parked in the front of the building. They found her apartment locked, with everything inside except for her purse and keys. Police have declared Norma a missing person involuntarily. Norma's family is also worried, as this is not like her. Why would Norma leave her apartment, job and car, starting a new life with keys and a purse, to the things she needs in Herndon? It doesn't make sense, and we need to make sure Norma is okay. Contact Herndon Police. Norma may be going by the last name of Avillan Leon. Norma's family and friends have gone many holidays remembering that she's missing. Let's bring back some information about Norma to her family. Take a moment to review the information we know about Norma before her disappearance. Please, if you have seen Norma a villain, please contact Herndon Police Department. Until then, she is missing, by the minute. Portland, Maine. December 23, 2005. The holidays can bring a range of emotions for people across the nation. Some people feel joy, others may feel sadness, and some may feel nothing at all. For one teenager, his feelings and whereabouts remain unknown. Siphat Chow, 19, a recent honor roll high school graduate from Portland High School, and would begin his next steps towards his future majoring in business at University of Maine at Orono. Siphat had not registered in spring classes at the university and was allegedly having some financial issues due to internet gambling. With support from his family, they wanted him to come home and be closer to them. Siphat obliged, and here is where the story would take an obscure turn. Siphat would be spending time with his family and would last be seen falling asleep on his parents' couch around 1 a.m. on Christmas Eve. This would be the last time he would be seen or heard from again. Siphat would leave his wallet, car and car keys behind. His family believes that this is very unlike him, something is wrong, and they do fear for his safety. Siphat is an Asian male, 5 feet 9 inches, weighing 143 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. At the time of his disappearance he was 19, and at the taping of this episode he was 37 years old. He was last seen wearing a red sweatshirt, blue jeans, Timberland boots, and possibly a black suede jacket and a beanie hat. He has a scar on his chin and goes by the nickname Fat. If you have any information about Siphat Chow's disappearance, please contact the Portland Police Department. Born, Massachusetts. June 30, 1996. A missing person case would leave off where a love story began. Patricia Manassian, a wife and mother, would be on a family vacation in Cape Cod. It would be the afternoon of July 1st when she would tell her family she was going to get the car washed. This would be the last time she was heard from again. Patricia had been having a tough time in her life, as she had been in a vehicular accident where she suffered head and back injuries that would cause her memory loss from time to time. She was also experiencing episodes of depression as a result of the accident and had taken steps towards treatment. Authorities would find that Patricia's minivan was not at the local gas station but parked at a restaurant where her and her husband had their first date 18 years ago at the time of her disappearance. Police would find her wedding rings, purse, credit cards, identification cards, keys, and $12 in cash. Patricia's husband would also find a 15-page letter left in their second family car. In the letter, Patricia would write about how her family was better off without her. She would apologize for not being a good wife, parent, and employee. She stated that she needed space and was unhappy with her life, but she loved her children and husband. Authorities believe that Patricia may have taken her own life by walking into the ocean and did canvass nearby beaches for her remains but have had no luck. The letter did not indicate Patricia wanted to end her life and has never had a history of wanting to do so. Patricia's husband believes that she may have started a new life under a new identity. There are reports that Patricia was allegedly seen in Brockton, Massachusetts area in April 1997. Patricia is a white female, 5 feet 2 inches, weighing 120 pounds, with brown hair and green hazel eyes. She was 37 at the time of her disappearance, and at the taping of this episode she would be 64 years old. She was last seen wearing gray sweatshirt and black stretch pants. Patricia was last known to be driving red/maroon 1994 Mercury Villager minivan with the Massachusetts license plate number 667 ZIS. If you have any information about Patricia's disappearance, please contact the Massachusetts State Police. Johnston, Rhode Island. March 29, 1990. A wife working on her marriage would mysteriously disappear, but the alleged suspect stopped working with investigators before taking his own life. Doreen Marfio, 34 at the time, a wife and was the purchasing director at Rhode Island School of Design. She would end up taking time away from her position and dedicating her full time to working on her marriage. Her husband would report his wife Doreen missing on March 29, 2 days after he claimed to have last seen her. Stephen stated on the day of Doreen's disappearance he would head home to eat lunch with Doreen and then head back to work. When he arrived at 4 p.m. he had not seen her and reported her missing 2 days later. Stephen believed that Doreen was having an affair and also paid private investigators to look into his marriage. He stated that Doreen would pack a suitcase with a week worth of clothes, took $600 and left. Investigators realized Doreen did not take her hair curlers, her 1984 Ford Tempo of her pet cats with her. They also did not find any of the adultery allegations against Doreen to be true. Many marriages across the nation do struggle, and Doreen's marriage was one of them. Investigators believe that Doreen did not leave on her own accord and her husband Stephen had something to do with her disappearance allegedly. Doreen was supposed to have a phone call with her mother that day and she did not. In June of 1990, police would receive 2 typewriter-written letters spoken in third person. One stated that Stephen strangled Doreen in the day of her disappearance and dumped her body in a pond in Providence, Rhode Island. The second letter would include cheating allegations against Doreen and include alleged partners, men's names from her job. Police would determine that the letters were written from a typewriter found in Stephen's mom's home. When confronted with the facts, Stephen stopped cooperating with investigators and hired an attorney. Yet this case takes another wicked turn for the worse. If you are enjoying learning more about these unsolved cases across the nation, we invite you to join our mission in bringing awareness. Knowing what's going on in your community helps keep everyone safe. Be sure to subscribe to not miss out on any episodes. You may have tips to solve the next case we feature. Now let's hop back into this case, but we have to fast forward about 9 years later in 1999. Stephen would tell his family he was going to go on vacation and straighten his life out. When he arrived back from vacation he would commit a treacherous act that he himself not be able to live with. Stephen would arrive home from his vacation and head to his ex-girlfriend's house where he would take her like, wound her new boyfriend, and then he would drive to Connecticut in a secluded reservoir and take his own life. He would leave a letter to his mother and in it her would express his feelings of sadness and guilt towards Doreen's disappearance, but he never admitted to anything involving a murder. Investigators do believe that Stephen is responsible in the disappearance of Doreen but have never been able to charge him. Doreen is a white female, 5 feet 7 inches, 115 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. It is unknown what Doreen was wearing. Doreen's case remains open and we must keep her case out there and help authorities gain tips on where she may be. If you have any information about Doreen's disappearance, please contact the Johnston Police Department. Authorities are also asking that anyone with blood relation to Doreen to please contact them. Nashua, New Hampshire. April 20, 2019. Michael McLean, a graduate of Hesser College with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, would have a career working at a non-profit called Easter Seals New Hampshire, that provides resources for people with disabilities, veterans and senior citizens. Michael would work with autistic children. On a night out with friends, things would get hazy after Michael stepped in to break up an altercation. Michael would be spending his time with friends at Tropical Lounge located at 14 West Hollis Street. Michael would see a female that he knew in the midst of an argument with another female. Michael would walk over to attempt to convince the female to leave the dispute. At the time, the police would arrive and the crowd would disperse. This is when Michael would be separated from his friends around 1:45 a.m. Things would begin to come strange when Michael would reach out to a few people. One being his boss. Michael would call his boss and state, "They're after me," more than one. Michael would also reach out to his neighbor via text. He would send 3 messages. The series of text would read, "Help LOL hour, What Stood Aloof, and Eldridge Bro. Authorities are not sure who or what Michael meant, but they do believe he was referring to his location, Eldridge being the street near where the car was located. Throughout the investigation, Michael would be seen on surveillance in his car. At 2 a.m. he was seen at a McDonald's. He was then seen entering and leaving a parking garage located Riverfront Landing in the area of Bancroft Street and the Merrimack River at 3:30 a.m. That would be the last known sighting of Michael. Witnesses believe they may have heard someone yelling for help from the Merrimack River near the Hudson side the same night of Michael's disappearance, but do not have proof that it was Michael. Michael was reported missing when his family was unable to get in contact with him on Easter. He is a black male, 5 feet 10 inches, weighing 190 pounds, with brown eyes and black hair. At the time of his disappearance he was 29 years old, and at the taping of this episode he would be 33. Michael's hair would be in cornrows, and he also wears green color contacts. He has a goatee and tattoos. Here you can see pictures. Here is the last image we have available of Michael before his disappearance. This is what he was last seen wearing. Michael remains missing, and his family, friends, and community seek answers. Help us get more clarity on Michael's whereabouts. If you have any tips, please contact the Nashua Police Department. Waterbury, Connecticut. December 20, 2008. A man behind a crime scene that investigators detail as the worst they have ever seen, is lurking in the streets among us. During the portion of this segment we want to emphasize that viewer discretion is advised. Some communities have angels, people that are willing to lend a hand, a smile, or even an encouraging word. One community, Laura Orso, 85, would help residents of her Albanian community. Her friends would become worried when they were unable to hear from her, and one of her friends would head to her apartment and find her in a horrible state. Police would be called to the scene and find Laura Orso covered in blood, lying in her kitchen floor. Authorities on the scene would find Laura with multiple stab wounds. Autopsy would reveal the exact number being 37 wounds. When suspects commit crimes with knives, they are very likely to cut themselves with the slippage that is created from the blood of their victims. They are likely to wound themselves, and that's exactly what this suspect did. Police would find a second blood type and knew it belonged to the suspect. Police would get samples from the neighbors, and one neighbor's home would be the clue to let police know who committed this horrendous crime. Authorities would head to a residence and find out that a man that was staying there was acting erratic, had a drug problem, and recently stolen money from the residents to contribute to his habit. Authorities knew that the suspect in Laura Orso's murder's motive was robbery, as they had stolen money from her that she received in Christmas cards. Police would take a toothbrush from the scene, and it was an exact match to the murder's blood found at the scene. Authorities knew they were looking for Irvis McAlary. Police were headed to find the suspect and place him in custody. Detectives would find that Irvis purchased a bus ticket to St. Petersburg, Florida. But he would not arrive in Florida and stop in New York. Investigators would also fly to Albania and speak with authorities, and Irvis would be placed on Albania's most wanted list for murder. Investigators would also speak with a friend of Irvis, and it was alleged that he told his friend he had stabbed 2 people in Albania. We do not want anyone who would do something like this in our community, and we must keep our eyes open to make sure we get this suspect in custody. Irvis is described as a white male from Albanian descent, 5 feet 11 inches, weighing 190 pounds. At the time of the crime he was 21, and at the taping of the video he would be 36. Irvis is considered armed and dangerous, and it is important that you alert authorities if you see him. Police have also released age-enhanced photos. He may have had nose surgery due to his excessive heroin use. If you have any tips about this case or about the whereabouts of Irvis McAlary, contact In Pursuit 833-378-7783. Schuylerville, New York. November 24, 2015. A town councilman would leave his home and then never be heard from again. It was around 10 a.m. and sometime around 12 in the afternoon, at the residence of Fred Drum, which was located on Burgoyne Road. Frederick Drum, 68, at the time would be at his residence alone and would be headed out for a walk on his 170-acre property. Frederick would not be seen again. Frederick's family would notice that Frederick did take his wallet, but all of his cars would be at the home on the property. Frederick was the town councilman, youth baseball coach, a member of the town's Board of Assessment Review and a member of the town planning board. Frederick had recently retired and had plans to not run or be re-elected for the council and wanted to spend his free time traveling with his wife. Since Frederick's disappearance, his debit and credit cards have not been used. Police have searched his property and surrounding area with no success. Frederick is described as a white male, 5 feet 5 inches, 170 to 180 pounds, he has gray hazel eyes. It is unknown what Frederick was last seen wearing, but he often wore his camo hat as you can see in this picture here. If you have any tips about Frederick's disappearance, please contact the Saratoga County Sheriff's Office. Frederick's family has offered a reward for tips in this case. Clifton, New Jersey. September 20, 1999. Hakan Karachi, 28 at the time, used to work at a factory but was unemployed and would usually spend his day reading Turkish newspapers and spending time with friends and relatives. On September 20th, in 1999, Hakan would ask his brother to borrow his car so he could head to the store. His brother obliged, but this would be the last time that anyone had ever seen or heard from Hakan again. Hakan's family would report him missing, and 5 days later they would receive a clue to a mystery that would linger with them for years. On September 25, 1999, Hakan's brother's vehicle, a silver 1989 Mazda 626, would be found in a remote area. That location would be Adirondack Mountains. The car was found with the lights on, the battery dead, without gas and the keys still in the ignition. Inside, investigators would also find 2 packs of cigarettes, Parliament, a brand that Hakan was known to smoke, and a pack of Marlboros. Police and Hakan's family do not believe this is like him, and today we ask our viewers for support in getting answers to Hakan's whereabouts. Hakan is a Turkish white male, 6 feet 2 inches, 180 pounds, with light brown hair and brown eyes. He also has 2 scars on his forehead. Hakan was last seen wearing a black or gray short-sleeved collared shirt with gray stripes or a grid pattern design, khaki pants, and black leather dress shoes. If you have any tips about Hakan's disappearance, please contact the Clifton Police Department. Camden, Delaware. May 31, 2012. Lois Lorraine Rodriguez, 52 at the time, had an exciting career that allowed her to travel across the country to NASCAR events. Lois lived with her boyfriend at the time on Foxhole Road in Camden. On May 31st, Lois would be working at the Dover International Speedway. Lois would complete her shift, and this was the last place she was reported to be seen. Lois' mother would not hear from her and she would file a missing persons report. Lois' boyfriend would state that she did not return home. This may not be uncanny for Lois to do, as she had a job where she traveled. Lois would also be known to meet people from online and stay with them for long periods of time. She was known to frequent Aberdeen, Maryland, and also Pennsylvania. Lois is missing. Lois is a white female, 5 feet 6 inches, 130 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. If you have any tips in the disappearance of Lois, please contact the Delaware State Police. Ocean City, Maryland. January 31, 2005. A man on a work trip would mysteriously vanish and authorities suspect foul play. Eduardo Masaler, 52, at the time, worked as a construction contractor that lived in Northern Virginia. Eduardo would receive a job for his business that would require him to travel to Ocean City, Maryland, Here he would also have a condo. Eduardo would take 2 of his employees with him on the trip. They would complete the roofing and siding installation and then would head to the Bull on the beach on January 31, 2005. This is the place that Eduardo and one of his employees was last seen. That employee being Jose Damian Hernandez. On February 3, 2005, Eduardo's family would report him missing. Authorities would head to Eduardo's condo and find a scene that would lead them to believe something happened to Eduardo. Inside Eduardo's condo appeared to be some sort of struggle that would focus in the master bedroom. Here police would find blood and spurts of blood in the kitchen. The master bedroom would be the center of the crime scene. Authorities would notice that a few things were missing from the condo. A large futon mattress with the beddings and sheets missing, and they would also discover a large knife was missing from the kitchen. Unfortunately, the amount of blood found at the scene would determine that Eduardo would not have been able to sustain his injuries. Police knew they wanted to talk to 2 people, Jose Damian Hernandez and Jose Roberto Orellana Romero. Jose Hernandez was last seen with Eduardo at the restaurant and police would investigate him thoroughly. They would find that Jose entered the U.S. illegally from El Salvador in 2005. Jose would be working with Eduardo, and when he was reported missing, Eduardo's credit card was still being used. Jose Hernandez would return the credit card to the family and alleged that Eduardo told him he could use it. Eduardo's family contacted the police and Jose Hernandez was charged with stolen property. At Jose Hernandez's apartment in Columbus, Ohio, police would find Eduardo's van. They would also find that Eduardo pawned some of Eduardo's tools the day after he disappeared. Jose Hernandez was sentenced to 5 years on the stolen property, and after his release he was deported back to El Salvador. The other employee, Jose Roberto Orellana Romero, is also a native of El Salvador and entered the U.S. illegally. Jose Romero has not been seen or heard from since this event, and police would like to speak with him for questioning in regards to the theft and disappearance of Eduardo. At this time, authorities believe Jose Romero may have connections to Ohio or has fled back to El Salvador. Authorities have declared Eduardo deceased, but his body still remains missing. Police believe he may have been dumped somewhere within a 30-mile radius of Ocean City. Eduardo is described as a Hispanic male and a native of Uruguay. He was 52 at the time of his disappearance. If you have any tips in this case, please contact the Ocean City Police Department 410-723-6604. South Boston, Virginia. May 16, 2009. An Army veteran would be missing. The person she was last seen with was someone very close to her. Hattie Brown, 48, was a retired Army veteran that served and protected our country in Operation Desert Storm. Hattie came from a big family and had 11 siblings. She would be living in the Halifax area and receive a call from one of her relatives in the early morning hours for a ride. Hattie would receive a call from her nephew. Her nephew would ask his Aunt Hattie to pick him up from a Sheetz gas station located at the intersection of Route 501 and Route 58. Hattie's car, a brown 2003 Volkswagen Jetta, would be seen on security footage at 2:33 a.m. Hattie's nephew would ask his aunt to drop him off at a party. At this location is where Hattie was last seen in her car. Hattie's nephew would make it home, but Hattie would not make it to her residence. She would be reported missing on May 16. That summer in July, police would get a clue about Hattie's disappearance. Hattie's brown Volkswagen Jetta would be found abandoned and burned on a farm in southeastern Halifax. The car would not be able to grant any evidence as it was completely burnt to a crisp. But detectives would determine some key facts from the vehicle. Fact 1. Hattie's car was parked at the location for some time. Fact 2. The farm was abandoned. These key facts would mean that whoever had something to do with Hattie's disappearance is a local and knows that placing the car at that location would deter detectives from finding it sooner. Police are suspecting foul play in Hattie's disappearance and do have a suspect in mind when it comes to the connection of Hattie's disappearance, but with tips from the community we are one step closer to getting answers to Hattie's family. Hattie is described as a black female, 5 feet 4 inches, 155 pounds. She does require medication, which that and her purse would be left at her residence. Hattie was last seen wearing a sleeveless shirt with pants and a white stripe. Help us find Hattie. Please submit any tips about Hattie's disappearance to Halifax County Sheriff's Office or Virginia State Police. High Point, North Carolina. September 8, 2010. A transient woman's family is seeking answers on where she could be. Leah Ann Ziegler, 40 at the time, would always check in with her sister every few weeks, just letting her know that she was okay. When Lee's sister hadn't heard from her, she reported her missing. Regardless of Lee's living space, she kept a routine of checking in with her sister, and when routine stopped, there is a cause for concern. The details regarding Lee's disappearance are limited, but this is where we, the community, come together to get answers for Lee's whereabouts. Leah was known to frequent the High Point, North Carolina area and was last seen on September 8, 2010. If you have happened to be in the High Point or surrounding areas, please keep a lookout for Leah. If you have any tips about her disappearance, please contact the High Point Police Department. North Charleston, South Carolina. October 11, 2007. A young woman working hard to take care of her kids would send a series of texts when she wasn't really a texter at all. Viridiana Maldonado, 21, mother who had recently divorced and came back home to live with her mother and sister as she was escaping a domestic violence situation. With Viridiana's courage, she moved back to South Carolina from Tacoma, Washington. She was working at a restaurant named La Norteña located on Rivers Avenue. After her shift, she would head home, change her shirt, and around 10:30 to 11 she would tell her mother and sister that she was headed out with her ex-sister-in-law. Around 1 a.m., her family would get a text stating that she was out drinking with a guy named Miguel. They would also get texts a few hours later stating that she didn't feel well and she was going back to Mexico. Viridiana's family knew this was unlike her, as she was not known to text. Her family contacted police to file a missing persons report. Authorities would get in contact with Viridiana's ex-sister-in-law. She would state that she was not with Viridiana and hadn't seen her in 2 weeks. She was also unsure why Viridiana would say she was with her. Detectives wouldn't stop there in Viridiana's disappearance and would find that her bank account was closed. Someone would call the bank and close the accounts. They would also get a deposit of the money withdrawn in a check sent to their home. The check would be sent to the home where Viridiana shared with her ex-husband. Viridiana had only been in South Carolina for a month before leaving Tacoma. Through phone records, police would find that Viridiana's ex-husband had visited South Carolina just days before Viridiana's disappearance. They would also determine that it was him who closed Viridiana's bank account. He would then flee the country and head to the Dominican Republic after Viridiana's disappearance. Viridiana's family would be in a custody battle over the children that Viridiana shared with her ex-husband. Her ex-husband would travel back into the United States and he would be immediately placed in custody for drug trafficking. He now sits in custody for those charges. But as far as Viridiana's case, she still remains missing while police expect foul play. Viridiana is a Hispanic female from Mexico, 5 feet 4 inches, 115 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. She was 21 at the time of her disappearance and would be 37 at the taping of this episode. Viridiana was last seen wearing a shirt and pants. Please, if you have any tips or may have seen Viridiana the night of her disappearance, please contact the North Charleston Police Department. Atlanta, Georgia. August 28, 2003. Dimashal Cullens, 32, mother and real estate loan officer would be enjoying the hustle of bustle that life has to offer in a big city like Atlanta, and in big cities it seems you're always on the move. Dimeshel would be finding time in her busy life as a newly separated woman to run some errands for her family. She would leave her home in Atlanta and would borrow her friends' red 1994 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Here is where things take a turn and leave a family awaiting answers. Dimeshel would not return home, but with retracing her steps, authorities would find that she was last seen early in the afternoon on 600 block of Mayland Avenue. Dimeshel's mother would talk to her at 7 o'clock that evening, and from here no one would know where Dimeshel was. Dimeshel was declared missing. It wouldn't be until 3 weeks later that the car that Dimeshel was driving was found abandoned near 3500 block of Clubhouse Drive East in Decatur, Georgia. Detectives would find that the same month that Dimeshel vanished, she was thinking about reconciling with her husband, and he would move back in with Dimeshel. Dimeshel was also allegedly seeing another man while she was separated. At this time, no one has been named as a suspect in this case, and while authorities continue to investigate, we will continue to keep Dimeshel's case in the light. Dimeshel is described as a black female, 5 feet 6 inches, 125 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. She has a tattoo on her neck with a dove and a rose and the name DD under it. She also has another tattoo with a rose on her right back shoulder. She was last seen wearing a blue denim skirt, blue denim sandals, and a brown short-sleeved sweater. If you have any tips about Dimeshel's whereabouts or disappearance, please help us get answers to her family who misses her dearly. Contact the Atlanta Police Department. Fort Pierce, Florida. March 3, 2017. Omario Carlisle, 36, would live at 1600 block of Avenue South in Fort Pierce, Florida with his mother. Omario would tell his mother that he was feeling anxious and nervous. She would feel the same the following day. Omario is a black Jamaican male, 5 feet 7 inches, 175 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Omario does require medication. He was last seen wearing a green t-shirt with 1994 on the front, blue and orange shorts, and black sneakers. There are few details about Omario's disappearance, but together from the community we can gain more tips. If you have any information about Omario's whereabouts, please contact St. Lucie County Public Safety Department. 521,705 people were reported missing just in 2021. Authorities need our help with getting tips about these. Strong enough to stand up for other women in the face of domestic violence is no one other than a superwoman. Her horrible experiences turned her into a beacon of light for other women. It's now time we shine the light on her case. Sacramento, California. August 26, 1997. Doris Nzunza was born June 6, 1956. A victim to stalking, decided she wanted to stand up and support other women, and she co-founded Sacramento Survivors of Stalking. On August 26, 1997, a mother, leader, advocate and fiancée would go missing to never be heard from again. Doris would be coming in from out of town to find that the refrigerator in her garage was unplugged and the food was spoiled and reeking a horrible smell. To rid the smell, Doris leaves her garage door open. Doris would not make it to work or arrive back home that evening. Her family knew something was wrong. They submitted a missing persons report to the police. When police arrived to search Doris's home, they would find her engagement ring on the nightstand. Like most superheroes deal with their series of villains, Doris had issues with stalkers from her past. One being her ex-boyfriend, who was convicted of stalking in 1994. In a news report, Doris's sister remembers hearing a threatening message stating, "You didn't marry me, you're not going to marry someone else." Police believe Doris's disappearance is suspicious and foul play is involved. No one belongs to anyone. Doris had every right to live her life as she pleased without someone lurking in the shadows stalking her. It is clear whoever did this planned to distract Doris and make entry into her home. Now she remains missing, by the minute. If you have any information about the disappearance of Doris Nzunza, please contact Sacramento Sheriff's Office. Doris, an advocate who helped women in the Sacramento area stand up to their abusers and offer them support, needs our help. Someone has to stand up and offer information, anything that they may know about this case, to police. Until then, Doris remains missing, by the minute. Old Saybrook, Connecticut. September 29, 1982. Sometimes, our first forevers end early, but it's a great moment when we are able to find love again. This love story ends with one of the lovers to never be seen again. Julianne Miller fell in love again after meeting James Clayton at a skating rink. The love was so strong she let James move in with her, also making him part owner of the property over at 27 Clinton Avenue. Things were going so great, until they were not. On September 29, 1982, Julianne was reported missing by her father. At her residence, police found her purse, keys, car, and her dog. Police questioned James Clayton, where he stated he saw her leave with a black man in a brown truck. Throughout further investigation of the home, they found couch cushions removed and small specks of blood in the couch springs. At the time, DNA was not yet used in forensics, and James stated the blood came from the dog. Police have now ruled Julianne's disappearance a death investigation, but without her body they are hesitant on pursuing charges as double jeopardy plays a part. The state of Connecticut is offering up to a $50,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest and conviction in this case. Please, if you have any information about the whereabouts of Julianne, say something. Until then, she remains missing. By Outdoors grants us access to travel and great adventures. Survivalists are people who practice outdoor survival skills, ensuring others and their own survival. For one survivalist, his last adventure would leave his family with sorrow. Glacier Park, Montana. November 2, 2000. Patrick Whalen, 33, a registered nurse, studying to become a doctor of naturopathy. In his free time he was a survivalist who enjoyed taking on the challenge of testing his survival skills against nature. Prior to his disappearance, for several weeks during September and October of 2000, Patrick would frequent Glacier National Park, Blackfeet tribal lands, and the Columbia Falls area. Patrick's vehicle would be found at the Lake McDonald Lodge restaurant, which is near the U.S. Highway 89 and the State Highway 49 in Glacier Park, Montana. The following May, Patrick's personal belongings were found in a makeshift campsite inside the park. It would be located at the North Fork of Cut Bank Creek. Even though Patrick was a survivalist, these characteristics are not of someone enjoying an adventure. Something must have happened, and until we get answers, his family is lost in knowing what happened to their loved one, by the minute. Please, if you have any information about the whereabouts of Patrick or any tips on if you may have seen him or know about his disappearance, please contact the Glacier National Park. Patrick is a white male, 6 feet 0 inches tall, weighing 155 pounds with strawberry blonde hair. In 2008, Patrick's family held a service for him celebrating his life. Let's get Patrick's family answers with tips from the community. Please, contact authorities with any information about Patrick's disappearance. Until then, he remains missing, by the minute. Indianapolis, Indiana. June 21, 2015. A mother is missing, while a man is seen parking her car on surveillance. Help us find her and the identity of the man. Larissa Sam, 22, devoted mother, with dreams of stardom, which she plans to showcase on American Idol. Around 1 a.m., Larissa would be leaving work, the now closed nightclub, the Classy Chassis, located in the 4000 block, of South Harding Street in Indianapolis. Larissa would head to her uncle's house to hang out and practice for auditions for American Idol. While there, Larissa would make a Facebook post stating, "I want someone to text. Texting buddy," which included her phone number. The following morning, Larissa's grandmother wouldn't be able to reach her, as she was watching her child the day before. She reached out to Larissa's uncle, and he stated she left around 4:30 a.m., a bit after he had fallen asleep. A missing persons report was filed and police would begin investigating. Within a few hours, police would get a lead. Larissa's car would be found parked in front of an abandoned house in the 2700 block of South Lyons Avenue. Police would get surveillance video of a man parking Larissa's car at 5:01 a.m. and running from the scene. At the scene, Larissa's car, a gold 2006 Dodge Stratus, would have the keys in the ignition with a flat tire. Inside, they would find Larissa's cell phone, credit cards, shoes and other personal items. Police have ruled out robbery as a motive in Larissa's disappearance, and at this time she remains missing. Detectives continue to investigate leads, and with tips, we can get answers to Larissa's whereabouts. Larissa is a Caucasian female, 5 feet 7 inches, 135 pounds, with dyed red hair and tattoos of an ice cream cone and candy across her chest. Please, if you have any tips about Larissa whereabouts, please contact the IMPD Missing Persons Unit 317-327-6160. Sioux City, Iowa. October 5, 1996. A man leaves his best friend at home, and his loved ones know something is wrong. His disappearance could possibly be linked to a Harley-Davidson motor. Kenneth Harker, 34, loves his family, his dog named Kilo, and has a knack for auto repair. As he was in the process of building his own Harley from scratch, Kenneth had recently suffered an auto accident, but it did not hold him back from his independent life. Near this time, Kenneth also bought a house for himself and his dog Kilo. Kenneth's mother was expecting to see her son on October 5, 1996, but he would not arrive. She did not want to worry him, and decided to let Kenneth get back to her. Meanwhile, investigators would get a clue into the start of a missing persons case that would soon be filed. A few days passed and Kenneth's mother decided to stop by his residence, located at 504 Colon Street. Inside, she would find Kilo, and he had not been fed or taken out for a few days. She knew that something was immediately wrong. She also found that Kenneth's medication had not been touched. She would contact police. Police would already have Kenneth's car in inventory when his mother called. They would find his car, a white 1977 Chevrolet Suburban, with its tires flat and out of gas, parked on an abandoned. Police would begin contacting Kenneth's friends. They thought maybe Kenneth would be with him, but he was not. The friend let police know that this was very unlike Kenneth, as he would never leave his dog. The friend also told the police about someone they should look into. Kenneth and his friends were all working on rebuilding motorcycles. They even entered into a competition at a bike shop together. Kenneth and his friends knew of a mechanic that was also known as Shady, but he had the connections to solve the problem with Kenneth's motor. Kenneth was waiting for his motor to be returned, and the friend stated, "It shouldn't take that long, we can work on it together." He told Kenneth to go get it back, but also thought the mechanic may have sold Kenneth's motor for drugs, allegedly. The friend would also allege that a past client that worked with the mechanic went to return for his bike, but a lien was placed on the bike and the client ended up paying for it back. The friend didn't want Kenneth in the same predicament, especially for something he worked so hard on. Detectives would reach out to the mechanic, where he left a voicemail stating that Kenneth picked up his motorcycle and was supposed to come back the next day, but he did not return. A few days later, the mechanic would leave the state. Kenneth's mom does not believe Kenneth picked up his bike because she knew he would have showed it to her due to how much time he put into it. Detectives have searched property of the mechanic's sister and also used cadaver dogs but have found nothing. Today, Kenneth remains missing, and foul play is suspected in this case. Kenneth is a white male, 5 feet 11 inches, 160 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He wears eyeglasses and has scars on both of his eyebrows. Due to Kenneth's auto accident, he would be able to live independently but is disabled and requires medication. At the time of his disappearance, he was 32, and at the taping of this episode he would be around 64 years old. If you have any tips about Kenneth's disappearance or his whereabouts, please contact the Sioux City Police Department. Prairie Village, Kansas. June 20, 2019. A mother's whereabouts remain unknown, and details surrounding her disappearance seem to change. Today, we ask our viewers for help on finding out the truth. Angela Green, 51, mother and wife, lived in the 7600 block of Tomahawk Road. Angela's daughter would last see her after she returned home from a trip abroad. She would stay at her boyfriend's. She wouldn't hear from her mother, but her father would text her stating he had admitted Angela into a psychiatric facility and that Angela would stay until she had gotten better. Angela's boyfriend's mother asked Angela's husband if she could visit Angela, but allegedly received no response. Weeks later, Angela's daughter and boyfriend would meet with her father to discuss her mother. Her father would state when they met on July 16, 2019 that Angela passed away from a stroke at the hospital. He also advised her not to speak with her mother's family in New York. Angela's daughter was confused about not saying an obituary or hearing about funeral arrangements. So in February of 2020, she took things into her own hands. Angela's daughter would speak with her aunt, Angela's sister, about what her father told her. Angela's aunt would contact her brother-in-law to seek a copy of Angela's death certificate. Angela's husband would allegedly state that he would send a picture of it via text. In the meantime, Angela's daughter would head to the Kansas Department of Health and Environment in Topeka to seek a copy of her mother's death certificate. When she arrived, and after a nationwide search, there was no record of Angela's death and only a record of her marriage certificate. Angela's sister would then call police to complete a welfare check on Angela, and when they asked her husband about her whereabouts, he stated that Angela left off with a friend allegedly. At this time, Angela's husband has now refused to speak with authorities, as advice from counsel. Police are actively investigating Angela's case and she is declared missing and endangered. Angela Green is an Asian female, 5 feet 9 inches, 116 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. If you have any tips, please contact the Prairie Village Police Department. St. Paul, Minnesota. May 17, 1977. 2 co-owners of a business would go missing a few weeks after the other. Where could they be? Gino Rinaldi, 26, and Chris Freeman, 30, were the co-owners of a redwood shop located in East St. Paul. Gino and Chris would meet in Arizona. Chris moved to Arizona with a friend with intentions to pursue education at Bell and Howell School. While in Arizona in 1975, Chris would meet Gino. Chris would ultimately decide to pursue entrepreneurship, and brought his new buddy Gino with him back to Minnesota to start their business selling products made from redwood. They would ultimately decide to close their shop in 1977. On May 8, 1977, Mother's Day, Chris would call home to his family and let them know he would not be able to make it home for the family's celebration. This would be the last time he was heard from again. On May 17, Gino would contact his family, letting them know that he would be headed towards Philadelphia with Chris. On May 20, 1977, Gino's sister recalls seeing the pair off as they were headed to Philadelphia. There are also reports that Gino and Chris may have been headed towards Miami, Florida. Today the pair remains missing, and their families have not given up hope on getting answers to what happened. Gino is a white male, 5 feet 11 inches, 150 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He has a tattoo on his right forearm. Chris is a white male, 6 feet 0 inches, 170 pounds, with blonde strawberry hair and blue eyes. If you have seen Gino or Chris, or have any tips about their disappearances, please contact the St. Paul Police Department. Tilden Township, Michigan. June 29, 1981. A night out and an argument would leave a couple separated for the night. One would head to a family member's, but today her whereabouts are still a mystery. It would be a fun night between loving couple Helen Diamond and her husband, as they spent the night out at the Tilden Township Club, located in National Mile. Tilden Township Club is a private members' social club. Helen and her husband were having a great night, until after a few too many drinks the loving couple would have a spat. Like any marriage has its days, the two would separate and call it a night. As they were leaving, Helen and her husband were asked by witnesses if they would like a ride, but they would decline. The couple would end up arguing a bit more, and separate for the night, with Helen going back inside the party at the Tilden Township Club, and Roy driving back to their residence. Helen's son lived close by, and she decided that she would walk to the residence. Helen would be walking down CR 476. Her son would be expecting Helen, but she would not arrive. Helen would be reported missing and detectives would interview witnesses from the party that night. Witnesses do remember seeing a woman walking, and another witness would state that they saw tire tracks in an unusually unaccessed area. Police would search the area and find multiple items. Some of these items recovered were a woman's loafer and a woman's jacket. During the time, authorities did not confirm these items to belong to Helen, but with later confirmation the jacket was hers. Detectives made sure to extensively interview witnesses, gather leads, and in conclusion were able to rule out members of Helen's family. But Helen still remains unaccounted for, and what happened to her that night en route to her son's remains a mystery. But we won't let Helen's story stay in the shadows, and hopefully answers come to the light. Helen is a white female, 5 feet 2 inches, 125 pounds, with brown hair and blue eyes. At the time of her disappearance, she was 48, and at the taping of this episode she would be around 91 years old. Detectives wonder, was this an act of foul play, or could it have been a terrible accident? Anyone with tips is encouraged to contact the Michigan State Police. Wildwood, Missouri. September 8, 2015. On a man's upcoming birthday, he would lead his family on a trail that seems to never end. With some birthdays there's joy, and for some there's feelings of sadness. For one man, Sadness seemed to be the thought surrounding his upcoming celebration of getting older. Daniel Lambert would be expecting his upcoming birthday, but instead, he would leave his family with a note detailing how he would be saying goodbye to his life. Authorities would head to Daniel's residence, located in the 2300 block of Forest Leaf Parkway in Wildwood, Missouri. At the residence, authorities would find the note. And they would also find a map of Mark Twain Forest. Daniel's car, a maroon 1997 Ford Ranger, was not at the residence, and it would later be found in Washington County at a campsite. Till this day, Daniel still remains missing. Daniel is a white male, 5 feet 10 inches, 180 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. When Daniel went missing, he was 43, and at the taping of this episode he would be around 51 years old. If you have any tips, please contact St. Louis County Police Department. Papillion, Nebraska. March 5, 1981. A woman known to go off for long periods of time with missionaries or various churches, would usually stay in contact with one of her loved ones. That silence has drawn her family to an unfamiliar sense of worry for decades. Anna Chaccio was a woman who loved her religion and some would call a working servant of her faith. Anna, while taking a break from her mission work, would be spending time with her brother at his residence located in Papillion, Nebraska. Anna's brother wouldn't see Anna that morning and she ended up leaving her winter coat and wallet. This would not make sense, as the temperatures in Nebraska in November would recommend those to bundle up, and where would Anna go without her wallet? Anna's family would think this was suspicious and contact authorities once they hadn't heard from her. Anna's mother thought she saw her, as she was driving past a corner on 42nd and Q Street. Anna's mother would turn around, attempt to park her car and see if the woman was her daughter. Unfortunately, the woman would no longer be there. At this time, Anna is still missing and her family hasn't heard from her since. Anna is a white female, 5 feet 4 inches, 140 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. Anna is considered endangered and missing. If you have seen Anna or have any tips about her disappearance, please contact the Sarpy County Sheriff's Office. Determination, independence and confidence are all qualities of get the job done people. For some, a no does not stop them, and for this one man, it wouldn't either. Muskego, Wisconsin. April 23, 1988. Patrick Kennedy, 22, and his friend would be staying at the Black Duck Inn, located on Schultz Drive. Patrick would ask his friend for a ride, his friend declined and Patrick would decide to walk to his next destination. That would be the last time anyone has seen or heard from Patrick since. No family deserves to go without answers, and the family of Patrick's has for about 3 decades. Someone out there may have seen Patrick or know his whereabouts today. Let's help authorities get answers to Patrick's family. Patrick is a white male, 6 feet 3 inches to 6 feet 5 inches, weighing 170 to 180 pounds with blonde strawberry hair. He was also wearing wire-rimmed glasses around the time. He would be around 57 this year. If you have any information about this case, please contact the Muskego Police. Someone from our community is missing and we won't let their name or story be forgotten. Please, any tips can help Patrick's family get answers. Until then, the question of, where is Patrick, goes unanswered, by the minute. Williston, North Dakota. November 11, 2015. When a pair of two goes its separate ways, it was extremely unexpected when the pair wouldn't reconnect again for several years. Where could this other half be? Brenda Sue Murdoch, twin and loving daughter, Brenda was known to keep work through the retail sales and customer service industry. She would be headed on her travels for more work. Brenda would be allegedly hitchhiking, when two women would pick her up. As the three chatted in the car, they would learn that Brenda was traveling to South Dakota for work. The women would part ways, but later the two friends would see the news that the women they were driving and talking with was reported missing. They would contact police and let them know about their encounter with Brenda. News reports would recall the occurrence as family members continued to search for Brenda. Brenda's family states this isn't like her, as she would have reached out to her mother to at least let her know she's okay. While that call hasn't come in, we are asking anyone for help in finding Brenda, or letting authorities know where she could be. Brenda is a white female, 5 feet 6 inches, 160 pounds with blonde hair and blue eyes. Brenda may also go by the last name Romero, or Rodriguez. Anyone with tips is encouraged to contact the Williston Police Department. Middletown, Ohio. 2015 to 2018. 3 women are missing after one of their friends' life was taken. Is it random? Could they all have left the area? Or is there a suspect responsible in this case of suspicious disappearances? Friends would be mourning one of their very own when she was found murdered after going missing back in 2015. A farmer would find a shallow grave, and medical examiners would head out to his property on Keister Road in Madison Township on September 13, 2015. Examiners would find skeletal remains that would belong to Lindsay Bogan through dental records. Police would look into Lindsay's life and find that she would have a battle with substance abuse, and with her struggles found work in the streets. Detectives would interview multiple people, with some even lying to interfere with this investigation, but there were some that stood up for their friend. Brandy English was friends with Lindsay. Brandy would soon go missing, as she was reported not being heard from by her daughter in May. Brandy would also live a high-risk lifestyle, and authorities are still unsure where she is today. What's even more strange is that more women with similar paths would also go missing from the area. Amber Flack would be reported missing September of 2016. Melinda Miller would be reported missing in February of 2017, and Michelle Bergen reported missing in May of 2017. Unfortunately, Michelle would later be found deceased in 2018. That still means that 3 other women remain missing. And it's important that we make sure their cases are not forgotten. If you have any tips about the missing person cases of Brandy English, Melinda Miller, or Amber Flack, please contact the Middletown Police Department. If you have any tips about the murders of Lindsay Bogan or Michelle Bergen, please reach out to the Middletown Police. Rapid City, South Dakota. May 3, 2021. With cases with few details, they don't receive the coverage they deserve. But that won't stop us from raising awareness, because we know someone out there may have the tips to fill in the gaps. Verdell Brown Bull, 51, and Susan Fast Eagle, 33, would last be seen together around the Memorial Park area. Unfortunately, they haven't been heard from since. Susan's husband remembers her feeling sick that day, and he would head out to grab her food. When she returned, she wasn't there. Her missing persons report would be filed. Witnesses would remember seeing the pair, and now it's been a few years since they've made contact with their loved ones who missed them dearly. Verdell is a Native American male. 5 feet 8 inches, 200 pounds, with gray hair and brown eyes. He is a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. Susan is a Native American female. 5 feet 2 inches, 160 pounds, with brown hair, brown and hazel eyes. Susan also has a tattoo shown here. If you have any tips in either Verdell disappearance, please contact the Oglala Sioux Tribe Department of Public Safety. For tips in Susan's disappearance, please contact the Rapid City Police Department. Every day, 2,300 people on average are reported missing. Determination, independence and confidence are all qualities of get the job done people. For some, a no does not stop them, and for this one man, it wouldn't either. Muskego, Wisconsin. April 23, 1988. Patrick Kennedy, 22, and his friend would be staying at the Black Duck Inn, located on Schultz Drive. Patrick would ask his friend for a ride, his friend declined and Patrick would decide to walk to his next destination. That would be the last time anyone has seen or heard from Patrick since. No family deserves to go without answers, and the family of Patrick's has for about 3 decades. Someone out there may have seen Patrick or know his whereabouts today. Let's help authorities get answers to Patrick's family. Patrick is a white male, 6 feet 3 inches to 6 feet 5 inches, weighing 170 to 180 pounds with blonde strawberry hair. He was also wearing wire-rimmed glasses around the time. He would be around 57 this year. If you have any information about this case, please contact the Muskego Police. Someone from our community is missing and we won't let their name or story be forgotten. Please, any tips can help Patrick's family get answers. Jerome, Idaho. April 3, 1997. It was a cold and snowy night in Idaho, and it would only get colder in the hearts of the family of one man that hasn't been seen since. Patrick Beavers, 24 at the time, is an avid reader and loved long-distance hiking. He would usually work long periods of time to save money so he could take off and study different subjects that he enjoyed. Patrick would leave his home after having a disagreement with his stepfather about not being employed at the time, after also having consumed alcohol. Sometime between April 3rd and the early morning hours of April 4th, Patrick would leave his home. His ID would be cut and he would leave a note that read, "My will, Mom gets everything. Sorry but my time here is up. Love you all, no blame, except my own." Patrick would leave without his coat, tax forms, rifle, new camping gear and clothes. Patrick's family believes he may not have taken his life and left on foot to either California or Amarillo or Austin, Texas, where his dad lived. Patrick was diagnosed as antisocial, ADHD, a light sensitivity condition that would require him to wear sunglasses. He stands 5 inch 10 to 6 feet tall, weighing 180 to 250 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. His upper body is disproportionate to his lower body. As we grow, we begin to recognize how tough our 20s can be. For some it's like middle school all over again, as we find our way into our true callings in adulthood. Those that excel, the feeling of being lost in the world still rings a bell. Patrick, and anyone else going through this confusing time period, just know, trying is all you need to do right now. Just please, never give up. If you have seen Patrick or know anything about his whereabouts, please contact the Jerome Police Department or the Texas Department of Public Safety. Patrick is missed and loved by his parents and sister, that are still hoping to find answers. Until then, Patrick remains missing, by the minute. Rutland, Vermont. November 9, 1981. What started as a simple day of shopping would turn into the last moment a woman was ever seen, again. Patricia Hesse, better known as Patty, 34 at the time, would spend some time in the afternoon at the Rutland Mall in Vermont. At the mall, Patty would purchase an expensive fur coat for around $200, that would be around $600 today. Patty would then return to her apartment inside of a home on Davis Street. The landlady would smell food burning and come down to Patty's apartment to find more food being prepared, a table set, but no Patty. The fur coat that Patty just bought would remain hanging in her closet. Patty would not be seen or heard from again. Patty's sister would work on her sister's disappearance case for 2 years before giving up hope that she would find her sister or the person who did something to her. Unfortunately, Patty's sister would die in a car accident in 2005. With the advancement in forensics and technology, cold cases are being solved every day. Police are able to pair science with help from the community to bring families answers and well-deserved justice. Patty Hesse is missing and endangered. Today she would be 76. She is 5 feet 1 inch, 110 pounds, with blue eyes and blonde hair. At the time of her disappearance she would have long hair. The circumstances around Patty's disappearance make it as if Patty was interrupted while she was preparing for dinner, and if so, was she expecting someone? Making such an expensive purchase yet leaving it? It just doesn't make sense, and it's important that we share what we know to help this case get solved. If you have any information about this case, please contact the Rutland Police Department. With tips from the community we can help find Patty. Did you see her at Rutland Mall? Did you notice anyone suspicious around? Do you know if she was meeting someone? Any tip can help authorities finally solve this case. Until then, Patty is still missing, by the minute. Deciding to leave the place you were born and starting over in a new state can be exciting, but I won't deny the fear that comes with new things. I can only imagine what starting over in a new country would bring. For one family, they left Thailand for a new start, in the States. Aberdeen, South Dakota. April 17, 2016. Pa Pao and her family would leave Thailand and live in Nebraska, then moving to Aberdeen and living there for about 2 years. Pa would work at Demkota beef plant at the time. Pa and her husband would be having a tough time, and Pa would meet her new boyfriend while working at her new job at the beef plant. Pa's husband and their 1-year-old would head to the park, leaving behind Pa and their 10-year-old at home. When Pa's husband and the 1-year-old would return, Pa would not be there. Her son would state that his mom left in a car with a man that he has seen before, but he does not know his name. Pa would later be determined missing once she missed her shift at the beef plant and hadn't been in contact with her family in Thailand or Nebraska. For some that may think Pa may have gotten tired of her life in the States and decided to head home, that isn't the case. When Pa left that evening and didn't return, her cell phone was turned off and her ID and passport were still at home. Pa is missing and endangered. She also suffers from seizures, anxiety and depression. At the time of her disappearance she was last seen wearing a white shirt, blue jeans and pink tennis shoes. Please, if you have seen Pa or have any information about her whereabouts, her family is searching for her. Contact the FBI or Aberdeen Police Department with tips. Police have conducted an investigation and Pa did have an argument with her husband prior to her disappearance, but she has not spoken to him or her boyfriend. Pa is an Asian female, 5 feet 2 inches, 110 pounds, with brown eyes and brown-black hair. Pa, a mother and wife that is missed dearly by her family. The Aberdeen Police and FBI for watching by the minute together on this case, and with tips from the community helps us advocate for justice on her whereabouts. Become a minute mover today missing by subscribing to our channel. Never miss an episode. You or someone you know may have tips.